To publicly welcome everybody to Hanover County to celebrate Father's Day at the Hanover Tavern from 11:30 to 2 p.m. It'll be all dad can eat buffet. It's the only celebration that I noticed, and so I thought I would just go ahead and share and welcome. And if there's other groups who want to have celebrations, great, but it's a beautiful place to be and a great time. And will everyone please join me with Pledge Allegiance standing? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can we have a roll call, please?
Town of Ashland, Mr. Chambers.
Present.
Mayor McGraw.
Present.
Charles City County, Mr. Atkins.
Present.
Chesterfield County, Mr. Carroll. Mr. Davy. Mr. Holland. Mr. Engel.
Here.
Dr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Petrosky. And Ms. Schneider.
Here.
Richland County, Mr. Cosby. Mr. Lyle. Mr. Spoonhour. Mr. Boners. Hanover County, Mr. Davis.
Present.
Ms. Dibble.
Here.
Mr. Ledbetter. Ms. Pritchard.
Here.
Mr. Waddell.
Present.
Henrico County, Mr. Bast.
Here.
Mr. Cooper.
Present.
Mr. Mackey. Urban Nelson. Mr. Rogish.
Here.
Mr. Schmidt. Ms. Roundtree.
Present.
New Kent County, Mr. Hathaway.
Here. Here.
Thank you. Ms. Pearson. Vice Chair Stewart.
Here.
Powhatan County, Mr. Donati. Mr. McClung. Mr. Powers. Ms. Winnell. City of Richmond, Mr. George. Ms. Jordan. Ms. Knight.
Present.
And Dr. Newbill.
Here.
Thank you. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is to recognize remote participation. So I just confirm the request to participate remotely and confirm that the decision to approve or disapprove the request to participate from a remote location was in conformance with the PlanRVA policy for meetings held through electronic communication means. And the voice of the remotely participating person can be heard by all persons at the primary or central meeting location. Before we have that motion, I just want to make sure that Mr. Hathaway, can you give us just a statement of the reason why you're participating remotely?
I had spinal surgery on the 4th.
Thank you for being here. Wow, that's a pretty good reason. Yes.
I move to approve the chairman's, I move to accept the chairman's approval.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? All right, any considerations for the amendments on the agenda? Here we go, we'll move on. Can we get an approval of the April 10th, 2025 amendment? Is there a motion for that? Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, it passes. Standing committees report, we'll start with me, and this is gonna be a long one, and I apologize, but I just wanna say first, Martha Schickel, thank you for your leadership. Really, truly, it's been wonderful. When we had our executive committee meeting, I'm not gonna go through all of what we discussed, because that would be inappropriate, but basically what I heard was and felt that you've grown not only as a leader, but as a person. And that PlanRVA is respected around the region, around the state, around the nation because of you. And the growth that you've had over those years has really put us in a wonderful position. And I appreciate that. And so our raise, though, might be small or large, depending on how people look at it. It was what we felt the best we could do at the time. If we could have given you a gazillion more, we would have. And your heart is always in the right place. And just hearing from certain people that said, hey, I had called her at 9 o'clock at night. I called her at 10 o'clock at night. I called her at 4 o'clock in the morning. And it always felt like she was fresh and awake and ready for me. It was beautiful and it was heartfelt. And I know it's hard to hear all this in front of everybody, but at the same time, I felt it's important to say that in front of everybody. So thank you.
Thank you.
Reverend Nelson will be coming off of the executive board and it still be part of PlanRVA, if I understand. And Reverend Cooper will be coming on. And again, I appreciate your leadership. I came in during that COVID year stuff and it was difficult. I think you and Mr. Davis were the ones who kind of guided us. And there was a lot of challenges, to say the least. And I've always respected everything you've ever said as far as help, criticism, love, joy, all of it. I've really respected you. And I appreciate it. I just want to say thank you. I just want to say thank you for all of your time. And Mr. Atkins, we've had some good, fun conversations.
No volatility.
Well, most of our conversations were about data and data centers and, how to navigate what the needs and wants of people are. But I appreciate the time you've been on the board with us. It's been fun. You always have that big smile. You always make me feel welcome. I love it. And so I'll miss seeing you on there, but Ryan Patterson will be taking your place. And so it sounds like we have the session planned and everything's ready and it will be a seamless transition. So I wanted to thank you. Finally, I wanted to end with, for my report before we get into some other things, the value of having organizations like this and having more than just one locality or one group. So every Father's Day, I have to think back to 2012, when on Father's Day, my heart stopped. And because of a train going through the town of Ashland that took about 17 minutes, the Ashland Rescue Squad, which was literally 1.5 miles from my house, couldn't get to me. But because the town of Ashland pays an extra tax to have extra services, there was an extra police officer paid for by the town of Ashland that was my first responder. And so there was somebody within 64 seconds, I was told, that was already at my house and responding. But because the county pays for extra EMTs and extra resources, there was a Beaver Dam rescue squad that came to me and took over from that officer. And because the community realized, hey, we needed an extra hospital. We had that Bonza Core Hospital that was the other side of town, but it was closer than going all the way to Richmond. Because I remember when I first moved to Ashland, if I needed to go to the hospital, I had to go to Richmond, but luckily we had one close by. And, I was pronounced dead when I arrived. I was put on life support. And 3-4 days later, I don't know, I wasn't around for it. They fixed me. So I'm here. I think about that because it took an entire region to do that. That wasn't just the town of Ashland. That wasn't just my wife knowing to pick up the phone and go start CPR though. It was the whole region that did that. And I feel like at one point our region was on life support. And then I really do, in my heart of hearts, believe that PlanRVA has grown to a point where it has revived us and has helped the region grow. And now it's starting to be on the tip of everyone's tongue, and everyone's thinking, like, when there's a major crisis, they're thinking, what can PlanRVA do? Where are they on this? And so that's why I said what I said for you. But also, it's always on my heart every Father's Day. So thank you. That's my chair report. Sorry it's so long, but it is. What's that? Oh, did I skip public comment? Oh, my apologies. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? I skipped over public comment. All right. All right, seeing none, we'll close public comment and then we'll move on to resolutions, appreciation. Yes, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. This is a special item to our staff and a request for the board to approve this resolution of appreciation. Some of you know Lee Medford, some of you do not, because her preference has always been to be behind the scenes. But she has been a fantastic person, asset, supporter, champion for this organization for a very long time, 27 years, in fact. And I think that while her retirement is a loss for us, it's an awesome opportunity for her to spend more time with her family and do some things that she's been putting off as she's been reaching the end of her career. So our staff, Janice and Diane, put together a resolution of appreciation, attempting to put on a front and back page sheet of paper a little bit about the history and the progression that we had and the contributions that she made to our organization, our region. I won't read it to you, but she started with us as GIS technician. She moved over to this organization from VDOT. And if you know a little bit about geographic information systems and technology and think about 27 years ago, she was a pioneer in her field. There were not a lot of women in the work that she did. And she really has, I think, been a testament to what grit and fortitude looks like in the professional workspace. Over her years here, she has seen a phenomenal amount of change in this organization. Again, you think about 27 years and the amount of change that we've experienced as a community, and particularly in the technology field. And she always prided herself on being a person who was staying up to date with the latest technology, trying to be ahead of the curve in those areas, and really helping to make this agency be as progressive as we could be in our operations and our systems. She was my right hand when we moved into this space, and I will be forever grateful for the work that she did to make this place so beautiful and to make it so hospitable. She is the person who made sure that a lot of the behind the scenes happened to ensure a welcoming environment, and has left some pretty big shoes to fill. So our team is working internally to figure out how to take the duties that Lee left in her retirement and fill those shoes. And we will do that, but she is missed. And we felt like it was appropriate to make sure that this board could publicly recognize her contribution. So again, this resolution is here, and at her request, she preferred that it be a more private setting, that it be presented. So she sends her thanks that this is happening this morning, but I think in all candor, it would be her worst nightmare to be in this room right now and hear people speak about her contributions. And so in respect for that, we felt like, I guess the accommodation was we would still publicly recognize her service, but we would really present this resolution if you choose to adopt it.
Is there a motion to approve the policy as presented?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it's approved. Thanks. Our next is a slate of officers. So there has been a request to nominate Jordan Stewart to be our chair coming in, Ryan Patterson as our vice chair, Cynthia Newbill as our treasurer, and Reverend Cooper as our secretary for FY 26. Are there any nominations from the floor? All right, well, I will be the one to recommend this. As is, do I have a second to recommend this?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Oh,
I
sorry.
just had a question.
Yes,
You said, I thought that Reverend Nelson is rolling off, so.
I wrote in
Not
Reverend
put
Cooper.
Oh,
I read off Reverend Cooper.
oh,
You're correct. That is,
Okay, sorry.
that's good. I'm sorry, guys. I should have gone for discussion.
Motion said Cooper.
Yeah, you're absolutely
I
correct.
was reading this.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And should have clarified that.
Okay, thank
My
you.
apologies on that. Yes. Reverend Cooper is being recommended to be the secretary for
Thank you.
FY 22. Reverend Nelson's coming off of the executive board.
Appreciate that.
Yes, thank you for clarifying. Appreciate it. All right, did we all say aye already, or should I carry that again?
Yeah.
Aye. I think
Okay, Janet, did we vote or not, or no?
Do we need a roll call vote?
No.
Mr. Gregory, then I
We did not.
didn't hear it. I didn't hear the ayes.
Okay, so let's do it again.
Okay.
So there was a motion and seconded to accept the names as I've read them. And the names that I read were Jordan Stewart as the chair, Ryan Patterson as the vice chair, Cynthia Newbill as the treasurer, and Reverend Cooper as the secretary for FY 26.
Aye.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we're good?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, our meeting schedule, that's on page 10. Do I need to go over the meeting schedule, or would anyone like to look at the meeting schedule? Have any questions, concerns about our meeting schedule going into the next year for 2026?
You say.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair McGraw. We have been working with our TPO schedule and the CBTA schedule. We recognize that there are other boards that you all sit on, but we've started with those three to try to think about the agenda items that those boards have and the flow of the meetings that those boards need to have to keep the business going, and also to be respectful of your calendars. So the commission schedule is proposed here at the top block, really thinking about the key items that need to come before the board at intervals across the year. And in some cases, we were able to achieve where if you serve on the TPO board, it offsets, so you're not having to come to 2 meetings a month. We're hopeful that that is helpful to some of you, because we know you're busy and you have a lot going on. So the proposed schedule was September, November, February, April, and June is our anchor commission dates are what we're proposing this year. We are considering and in conversations about whether or not the joint annual meeting that we've typically had in the winter should either be in December or January. And so that's, I think, still open for conversation with a date and scheduling, but I'd like to work with the executive committee on that and chair-elect, I don't know, Chair Stewart on that. And then similarly, because we didn't have a chance to talk about it with the executive committee, I think we can work with executive committee members to determine whether the dates that are here work for you. The suggestion was that we could have executive committee meet on offset months of the full commission meeting. The idea being that sometimes we have a challenge with the time running over. However, if it's more convenient to have those 2 meetings occur on the same day, we're open to that. So I'm thinking maybe the best thing to do, since we weren't able to discuss that this morning, might be to poll everyone and see what the preference of the executive committee members is. And we have plenty of time to adjust that executive committee schedule if changes are needed.
Sounds good.
So it might be that if there's consensus, it might not mean that we weren't asking for action this morning, but we did want to verify, because what we will do after today, if the top block for the full commission meeting times and dates work, we will start pushing calendar invites to your calendars. So they're held. Okay.
Sounds good. Any discussion or comments from anyone? And just to be fair, the reason why we didn't discuss that in the executive committee was because our closed session ran long, and so we just ran out of time. So, all right, so moving on to policy for meetings held.
Yeah, this is an action item, and I will, if it's okay, Janice, defer to you and Mr. Gregory for review of just why this is on the agenda this morning.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Ms. Schickel, Scott, and members of the body. This is an updated policy for your recommended adoption to allow your policy to be in compliance with updates to the Freedom of Information Act and its requirements for electronic communication meetings or meetings held by telecommunications means. Like we're experiencing this morning with Mr. Hathaway, and that you do in your agenda every meeting. You allow for those members who wish or need to participate but via remote telecommunications means a way to do that. But in order to allow for that under FOIA, you need to have this policy in place. So this policy is up to date with the latest FOIA changes, and you will see this again from time to time as the General Assembly makes additional changes, which they always do every year or so. So this will get your policy up to date as it stands now. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to try to answer those. Recommend approval.
Is there a recommendation to approve the policy as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Welcome, Mr. Davis, Audit Finance Facilities.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will open this up, and I'm glad to have Ms. Shepherd here, who I do want to start off by saying it's been a pleasure, Lauren. You've been here for a short period of time relatively, but you have really jumped in and worked so hard to get us to where we are for the things that we need to talk about, not only for this meeting, but for the future of the organization as it relates to finances. So professionally, I've really enjoyed working with you. So ladies and gentlemen of the authority. The committee met on April 21st. We reviewed the 2025 Q3 financial statements for July 1 through 24 through March 31st, 25. So our cash and receivables are strong. We have revenue at 73% and expenses at 72%, which is appropriate for the timing. Given certain expenses and the use of additional grant funding for certain expenditures, we've asked staff from the entire authority and execute through the finance committee to continue to analyze and refine those projects for the remainder of 2025. Ms. Shepherd's doing a great job with that, along with Director Schickel. So for the executive summary, when we met on May 21st, we reviewed and proposed the 26 budget. I will say that the 26 budget does come with full recommendation, unanimous recommendation for adoption from the Finance Committee. The proposed 4.8 million balance budget has been developed with a focus on alignment of the 26 key imperatives, FY26 key imperatives, with careful consideration of evolving federal policy. As we're looking back in our localities, we recognize federal policy, as it has in years past and will continue in years forward, is always evolving, and they've done a great job on monitoring that and communicating back with the Finance Committee on any of those potential impacts as we look forward. Well, staff will continue to closely monitor the current awards and pending opportunities, evaluate the agency's financial risk, and we'll communicate that relevant data back to the committee, or the staff will, and then we'll certainly bring that to the full board here at PlanRVA. Okay, so some revenue highlights as we move quickly. The proposed budget reflects a very conservative approach to revenue, with about 68% of our anticipated funding from federal sources, primarily through PL and 5303, which most folks in here are very, very familiar with. 18% from our local sources, member dues and CVTA earn that revenue. 9% from the state and private sources, being about 5%. And of course, that's Virginia Housing and FOLAR, which is Friends of the Lower Appomattox River. Proposed revenues do exclude our grant proposals submitted and are awaiting confirmation, as well as any renewals from the FY25 FEMA, NOAA, and EPA awards. And I'm going to ask Ms. Shepherd to go over that in just a few minutes. So expense highlights, it's what everybody looks at, where we're spending our money. Primary budget drivers: staffing 76%, technology 13%, and occupancy still around the 7%. So I know when we moved over, Reverend Nelson was talking about this in executive committee. Some folks in this room are not familiar with the tremendous amount of transition that it took to get from where we were to where we are here, and still maintaining a 7% occupancy is pretty good. And of course, that covers some others. Anyway, the committee, robust discussion regarding the proposed 3% adjustment pool, rising health insurance, and the 3% wage adjustment pool, and that will come with the recommendation. So, big thing the Finance Committee looked at after the numbers and counting all the beans and making sure they're in the right pots and we're spending them in the appropriate way. Looking at revenues, which was very, very taxing, I think, for Ms. Shepherd, and some of the things that the committee asked to place on her, to put a big burden on her time and her resources, and you rose to the challenge because we were concerned about revenues. So we asked that the format be changed a little bit just to better reflect the changing environment. And that was a recommendation. We gave some guidelines, and then Ms. Shepherd came in along with Director Schickel and made everything happen very, very quickly. So you will see an updated budget format. This relates to the next agenda item. So the simplified budget format, and I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Shepherd. We do expect more discussion on this with a little bit more dynamic reporting. And I hate to use those buzzwords, but that's exactly what it is, to get a little bit more into detail. So I'm going to have you've got a presentation together, and then we'll go through proposed budget adoption, and then I'll speak a little bit to the financial management system update. What I'd like to do, Mr. Chairman, with your concurrence and authority, is to go through this presentation, let Lauren go through and hit all of the details. Then maybe we do proposed budget adoption for FY26, And then I'll open up for the FMS update, the financial management system update, if that'd be okay with you. So are you following my format?
I am. Thank you so much. I think you've hit all of my.
No, I
comments.
opened them up. You're going into detail. You're going into detail. I opened them up and I wanted my folks to know for the amount of money that they pay me for the finance committee, that I'm earning my keep. So.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Davis. I'll just touch a little bit more on that revised budget format that Mr. Davis mentioned. Again, I'm on page 21 of your PDF packets. And so this is a more simplified budget than you've likely seen in years past, and it's designed to give PlanRVA the flexibility needed during that financial management system transition. You'll notice broader categories of revenues and expenses, allowing us visibility into those key financial priorities while avoiding potential mismatches between the old and new system structure. We do expect to have a more robust and, as Mr. Davis said, dynamic reporting capability in the new system to better segment and associate grant funding with corresponding project areas, providing that clearer financial picture around those core fiscal responsibilities and initiatives. I'm gonna scooch back a little bit on the slides. So
Financial term, scooch.
so that's a scoot. Yes,
Second
yes.
term.
Thank you. So again, as Mr. Davis highlighted, the proposed revenue is at 4.8 million. Again, 68% of that figure represents our federal funding, primarily transportation. 10% state, again, primarily transportation, but also our state appropriation. And then 18% local, which includes those member dues from the localities and service revenue for the services that we provide to CVTA. And then again, 5% private funding. As Mr. Davis mentioned, we always take a conservative approach to budgeting, but particularly this year with that evolving federal policy. So we were very conservative with what we included, and we're thoughtful about only including things that were a sure thing. So again, the VDOT-PL and 5303, and then 2 grants that we anticipated with 75 to 90% certainty, but have not been formally awarded and contracted. That's 2 grants from one each from Virginia Department of Health and the Virginia Association of Chiefs of Police. Those total just 1% of revenues. So we felt comfortable with the level of certainty, including those. I do want to take a few minutes to focus on the topic of wage adjustments. So could you flip that? Thank you. The clicker's not working. Thank you. Mr. Spoonhour, who is not here today, did ask for some benchmarking on this topic. And so given that staffing is the largest budget item for this proposed budget, we just wanted to do a deep dive on what our member localities were doing as well. And so there's a table on the slide that provides some of our member localities merit and wage increases, just as some benchmarking for the modeling that we did. We looked at models for 0%, 3%, and 5% and felt it would be most prudent for a 3% increase for the wage adjustment pool. We went through that in detail with the committee, and with the committee's support, that was our recommendation. I'll pause there. Any questions on the budget? Anything else you'd like me to cover, Mr. Davis, in more detail?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Duncan.
I do have a question on 17, if this is the appropriate time.
Sure.
This is under emergency management, the strategic highway safety program. Second line item, middle of the page, second line item and third line item, or second, third. Is that extraordinary revenue, or is it a recurring thing? And exactly what is that?
So I believe you're referencing the significant increase on revenues to date versus budgeted, that 313%. Is that what you're referencing? And so that is a very reasonable explanation for that. We did receive some additional revenues for that program. And so after the budget was approved by the board, additional revenues were awarded and received.
this was a one-time thing, not be recurring in the future.
Correct, unless that grant continues and renews. Yes. Yeah, Ms. Schickel, please.
I
Yeah.
apologize. I did, just because I know you. It's,
I can explain everything.
the acronym is State Homeland Security Grant.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So it's not a highway safety program. It's Emergency Management Homeland Security.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification, because I tried to do some research and got lost.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. Any other questions on financials or the budget?
I'll ask a question while they're, Mr. Chair, while they're,
Thank you.
discussing.
I didn't want to interrupt them.
Exactly. So, FOLAR, just look that up. That's a reoccurring private donation that we get from our friends, from the Lower Appomattox.
Correct. That's a partnership with, yes.
Friends of the Lower Appomattox River.
Thank you. Friends of the Lower Appomattox River. It's a partnership between our two organizations to fund staffing to support that program. And that is continuing. We do have a commitment for that into the next fiscal year.
Thanks.
Just to put a finer point on that, our Sarah help me, regional trails coordinator. Yes. Position held by Heather Barrar on staff, is essentially a leased position. So depending on the year, 40 to 60% of our time is leased through that funding, through that funding arrangement with Friends of the Lower Appomattox River. So Heather brings a wealth of knowledge. Those of you in Chesterfield know her from her tenure there, but she brings a wealth of knowledge to thinking about trail development. And so it's been a great partnership with FOLAR and PlanRVA to bring that kind of subject matter expertise to help build out the actual trail in our southern community, but then also to be able to think about how to support the trail activity that's been emerging here in the Richmond region.
Chair Davis, have we finished with the budget? Are we ready for the approval of this? Or
If the chair's ready and all discussions, and I move that we adopt the FY 26 annual budget for PlanRVA, known as the Richmond Regional Planning District Commission, as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We need a voice vote? Okay. All right, we need a roll call for this.
Okay. Mr. Chambers,
Aye.
Chair McGraw,
Aye.
Mr. Atkins,
Aye.
Mr. Engel,
Aye.
Dr. Miller, Ms. Schneider,
Aye.
Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Ms. Dibble,
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard,
Aye.
Mr. Waddell,
Aye.
Mr. Bast,
Aye.
Mr. Cooper,
Aye.
Reverend Nelson,
Aye.
Mr. Rogish,
Aye.
Ms. Roundtree,
Aye.
Mr. Hathaway,
Aye.
Vice Chair Stewart,
Aye.
Mr. George,
Aye.
Ms. Knight,
Aye.
Dr. Newbill.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries.
Thank you. Now an update on our new financial system.
Thank you. With the budget preparation behind us, staff is prioritizing this strategic initiative. We are continuing in the discovery phase, and we're committed to engaging with the Finance Committee and communicating updates to the commission as we move forward in this process. Plan to update at our next meeting.
Thank you. Public outreach, Tim Davy can't be here with us, but the newsletter is.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Did we have any questions on FMS? Anything further with FMS from folks? I know we had talked about it.
Well, she said she would have more of an update next time, so
But
I didn't.
yes, sir. My
Okay.
question is because this is moving and it involved us staying with our auditor while they were somewhat connected, because we didn't want to do a new FMS and change the auditor at the time. I didn't know if there was any specific directives back to the Finance Committee from the full commission on anything that y'all would direct us to work on. If not, we don't need to take on additional workload, but we're happy to follow the directive of the body. Is there was there anything on that I didn't know, Mr. Chairman? Or are we just gonna go ahead and move forward and then bring back the information as we understand to be what needs to be brought back at this point with nothing additional?
I feel comfortable moving forward, but I mean, if you want to open the floor if anybody has any concerns, we're just basically changing our system.
Right.
And so we held off on some of that because we, new audit and so forth, but
Yeah.
I'm happy with,
Just the update
Shepherd
coming back? Okay,
giving us the update next time and moving on, unless there's some question from the floor, if people have heard things or have concerns.
okay, and we have our marching orders, I feel, so thank you, sir.
We're good. Again, Mr. Davey can't be here, but the newsletter is out and you can link that in your agenda. And if you have any concerns about outreach, let me know, but I think the outreach committee is doing a fantastic job. It really is. Not seeing anything, I'll move on. Executive Director's report, back to you, Director Schickel.
Thank you. As always, included in the packet for information is the intergovernmental and environmental review. Eli Potamon on our team reviews these. These are notifications that come to PlanRVA with regard to various activities that are happening. We're a part of the consultation process and intergovernmental and environmental reviews. That record is there for your reference and perusal. And we do, I'll just note, compile every month these, and then we submit a record of these to the state every year as part of our compliance back to the state. If there are no questions, I can introduce item B.
Any questions? Yes.
Are these reviews somewhere that we can read them?
Sure.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Who do I ask? You?
I can direct it to myself or Sarah that are here in the room, or we can get you connected with Eli.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I should say, when they come to our office, they're circulated to your locality staff. So this isn't like something that we just do at our desk and don't interact with the localities. But we're kind of I'll call it a conduit for communication and information, circulating this information out to the localities.
Any other questions, comments? All right, I think we can go on to D.
Thank you. I'm going to introduce Ellen Cook and Sarah Stewart, who have put together this presentation and have been two of many staff who have been working on this last year. I know Sarah is going to summarize and share with you more, but I hope that at this point, this item is not a new one, but it is something that we're really proud of. And I don't want to steal your thunder, Sarah, but maybe I shouldn't say this in a public venue, but the competitive spirit in me can't help it. Sarah was with a colleague in Hampton Roads a week or so ago and was sharing about this initiative. And it's embarrassing to say there's a part of me that nothing joys me more than hearing that the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission staff are jealous of something that we're doing. So just really, really proud of this initiative and what the team has put together. So.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I'm Sarah Stewart, the REMI Planning Director, Resilience, Emergency Management and Environment. And in just a few minutes, you'll hear from Ellen Cook, directly behind me. So Ellen and I will take several minutes to give you an overview of the Pathways to the Future Regional Strategic Plan. And at the end, we will introduce a resolution for adoption for your consideration. First, we'd like to remind you about the path we took to get here. Here we go. Before we get into the journey, I want to preface this with 3 key points. All of them are present in the Code of Virginia. So per section 15.2, subsection 4209, for those of you taking notes, of the Regional Cooperation Act, planning district commissions in Virginia are required or shall prepare and adopt regional strategic plans. Indeed, PDCs are required to report on these plans in an annual report to the Department of Housing and Community Development, or DHCD. Regional strategic plans shall guide the district on elements of importance to more than one locality. Those are chosen by the district, whatever is relevant. Typical topics would include transportation, economic development, environmental management. There's a list in the code. When developing regional strategic plans, PDCs shall seek input from local governments, as well as a wide range of organizations, as well as the general public. Furthermore, those regional strategic plans shall be considered and adopted through public hearings, such as this one. Regional strategic plans also shall include mechanisms for measuring progress over time towards the goals and objectives therein. So said another way, they're going to include performance indicators or data points that we can track over time. So for many years, PlanRVA, as well as the other PDCs in the Commonwealth, have pointed to these key functional area plans that we have regularly produced. In the past, we've used the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, you see that on the slide, and we've also pointed to the Long Range Transportation Plan in our annual report to DHCD. So in many ways, these plans do check a lot of the right boxes. They're fairly comprehensive. They are pretty strategic. They do include goals and metrics to track over time, and they're done through public review processes. But they're not true regional strategic plans. So this is why the scenario planning process, or project rather, was pretty exciting for us here, as well as many people around the region. It was started in 2022. There's a lot of resources about it on our website. Some of you are pretty familiar with it. But it was through that project that we developed a suite of models to help us conduct exploratory scenario planning. The models help us understand how aspects of daily life relate to or impact each other. So these are things like transportation, water quality is impacted by or relates to economic development and building, or more broadly, general energy use, as well as community health. It helps us better understand how all of these concepts are connected. So the scenario planning project did present an opportunity to change our approach. It presented an opportunity for us, as well as the broader community, to think a little differently about our work and the inherent interdisciplinary connections within it. Let's add to that a growing portfolio of plans and programs at PlanRVA. For example, the hazard mitigation plan and honestly program that we undertake on behalf of our localities. We also have an excellent data team who have literally almost every day developed new data and are developing ways to track indicators over time. And we're currently working on a natural resources plan. Let's top that off with a growing spirit of regional cooperation that we've noticed across the region. This is both in very large scale workshops, group discussions that are regional partners, or in small one-on-one, a few people around a table that we've sensed, that we've picked up on, where both local governments as well as other partner organizations are wondering how can we better work together. So that brings us to the concept of this regional vision. We can all work towards this coordinated point, this coordinated description. We've worked with you over the last many months to articulate that regional vision. Ellen's going to dive more deeply into that in just a minute. But first, there we go. Let's talk about the role of the regional vision in the regional strategic plan. So the honeycomb image on the screen depicts a conceptual structure for the regional strategic plan. The vision is at the center, or like the heart of the regional strategic plan. It sets the tone, it sets direction. Functional area plans include goals that align with that vision. That's why they're depicted here, encircling it. This is a model for planning and program integration and coordination, to be honest. It's not only from the top with goals that align towards this vision, but think for a second back to my mention of the scenario planning project. It also allows us to use models and data across these plans to better update those plans and monitor them over time. And we can look towards meaningful indicators and data layers that serve purposes across discipline areas and plans, excuse me. So now I'm gonna hand it off to Ellen to describe the regional vision in more detail and talk about the path forward.
Thanks so much, Sarah. As shown on the last slide, the vision anchors the regional strategic plan with the 5 interconnected themes shown here. These themes have been developed over the last year with input from a range of sources. And just to recap what that input has looked like, it's included elected leaders and others at the June 2024 joint meeting of this board, the RRTPO board and CVTA board, multiple PlanRVA board and executive committee updates and discussions, including a staff presentation of the board a couple of months ago at its April meeting, and sharing the plan with the community at the Pathways to the Future Symposium in March, as well as many other conversations with stakeholders across the region. Each vision theme component is followed by a more detailed description, which are shown here. To paraphrase, the more detailed descriptions for the first 3 themes focus on infrastructure, including transportation infrastructure that serves our region well, healthy lands and waters and natural resource protection as an element of our community design, a diverse housing stock seeking to make housing attainable for everyone. And to paraphrase the final 2 themes, which focus on maintaining our diverse economic base and investing in our people and community fabric, and collaboration and engagement across the many types of places and people in our region. As Sarah mentioned, each of our agency functional area plans addresses multiple components of these regional vision themes. Many of the functional area plans are being developed or updated this year and next year, an alignment that assists in the effort to integrate across functional areas. You'll be seeing plans for these functional areas come before you for input or consideration over the next couple of years. Having the regional strategic plan should help us as an agency enhance our regional impact as it provides a clear path to walk forward as we partner and collaborate among localities and regional stakeholders. In addition, as Sarah mentioned, a key component of the regional strategic plan structure is the aspect of data tracking to help illuminate areas of success or progress. For example, the agency's core functional plans will identify metrics, many of which can be tracked and coordinated in a coordinated way with regional partners, such as through the RVA Rising Group. Again, having the strategic plan vision helps us align with regional partners. We are exploring how partnership would look to ensure we're meeting the needs of these and other partnering organizations and their planning deliverables. PlanRVA's role in advancing the strategic plan can be expressed in the key imperatives, which guide our agency work program and budget topics that are also on your agenda today. With that, I will note that the packet for the Commission's consideration is a resolution for adoption. Staff is happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Any questions? Yes.
I don't know how relevant this might be, but I do a lot of reading. Energy, this country is got an energy appetite that's ever increasing. And you mentioned data points and data collection. Can you comment in any way on what you're finding trend wise for energy and what your predictions might be? I apologize if it's not a real relevant question, but
It's relevant.
thank you.
So, to keep it, that is absolutely something we're tracking. Yes, overall, the line does go like this. That being the future, it going up. In part, data centers, but all of the use of cell phones and everything that we all plug in, it goes up. We actually recently got some updated data from our consultant working with us on the comprehensive climate action plan, we rebranded that to the Pathways to the Future Air Quality Plan, because the outcome of that relates to air quality pollution, or air pollution impacting quality. So yes, it's going up. Yes, we are looking at it. And there are some really great tables and charts that I don't have literally in my pocket, but we do have that I can share with you about that. Both as a kind of baseline, and then some of the proposed actions in that climate action plan. We're working right now on how that would adjust that trend line. So does that help answer your question?
It does, and one hopefully simple question, are we headed toward prices or? I'm sorry.
Environmental crisis.
Huh?
There are a lot of things that we can do to impact. The energy use is going up, but there are a lot of things that we can do to impact how that energy is supplied and the kind of secondary, tertiary impacts from that.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
I'll drop by on the way out. Thank you.
Yeah, let's talk.
Appreciate
Okay.
it.
Well, can those, to his point, could those charts be included in the minutes? So, because there are gonna be some other people who would like to see that might see
Yeah,
that
I mean,
question and think,
we
I
have
want to see-
shared.
Yeah.
Sorry. We've shared them, there are staff from each of the localities that are on the CCAP or the Climate Action Plan Committee, Steering Committee, that have access to this data. But yes, if you all are interested in it, we could, it lives in an Excel table, I'm sure we can package it into a PDF or something
Thank you.
that you could see.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
2 points. One is that I know that Chesterfield, there's right now in front of the SEC is with regard to the peaker plan and what is going to be happening with that. So I think that that's something that maybe this body should be aware of. I don't think we're going to take a stance on it, but I do believe that that is something that we should be aware of. And I know it's here in this packet too, and it's mentioned in here about the SEC and the upcoming hearing. The other part of it is that, just as an aside, if you're unaware, that Chesterfield has been able to obtain that we're going to be going through a zoning process for Commonwealth fusion systems. If you're not aware of that, it's going to be the first fusion system in the world, commercial. And so we're very, very excited about that, and they're coming here to Chesterfield. So that if that's not on your radar, we definitely look up Commonwealth fusion systems. And really that is the holy grail when it comes to energy generation.
This is a nuclear fusion type. of
Remember,
plant.
there's a difference between fusion and fission.
Yes, sir.
When we're talking fusion, we're talking about what is the kind of energy that comes off the sun, and that the byproduct is essentially hydrogen. Where as opposed to something being radioactive. Folks will typically make that, have that misunderstanding around that. But as we go through that partnership with Commonwealth Fusion Systems, we go through that zoning, and then ultimately where they're being located, which is down by Dominion, there could be as many as 4 of these kind of energy generation plants that can be located there. But right now, I know Mr. Engel has already toured the fusion plant on a more of a smaller level that's currently being built in Massachusetts. Myself and Schneider have not been up there yet to see it firsthand and what they're building. But it's a very exciting look for what energy generation is going to be going forward.
Thank you. I'm glad I asked the question. Thanks for your indulgence. Thank you.
It's a very interesting space.
yeah, it's great. Any other questions or comments?
Just
Yeah.
comment on the work of putting this together and what it represents. I just want to acknowledge it's been a very long process with a lot of collaboration. I think it's going to serve us really well, having the high level pathways to the future for other things to plug in. And I just want to thank you and the rest of the staff for the excellent work in putting this together. So this is a really big deal that I think is going to serve us well as we try to make sure we're integrating plans and integrating with other organizations. Thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? All right, is there a motion to approve the regional strategic vision as presented?
So moved.
Oh,
Second.
which one? Both. I think Chambers got the movement. Who got the second?
I did.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it passes. Now we're on to C.
Thank you. Point of privilege, I'll acknowledge in the back of the room as he does, Mr. Vitulkis. I'm not used to presenting in front of you, so it's nice to have you here this morning. I'll just note that at PlanRVA, our board members battle to get a motion in a second on the record, as opposed to the conflict of a yay or nay vote, right? So, thanks for being here. I know you're here for other reasons, but great to have you. So I wanted to just put a little bit of color. You've taken some big actions today for this agency with the budget and with the regional strategic vision. So I wanted to talk through a couple of slides. I'll be brief. You have, oh, so sorry, didn't hand it out. Let me hand out for you a document that you can look at your leisure following the meeting. But this is our work plan in summary for this coming year that aligns to our budget. Again, those key imperatives that we've now talked about for 3 months and kind of the high level markers of whether or not we know whether we're meeting those imperatives. The document flows in the order of these slides. And so we put together a one-pager that represents each one of these key imperatives with some highlights of some of the initiatives that staff will be undertaking this year. And this will be incorporated into, as Lauren mentioned, you know, as we move through the integration of our new financial management system, we'll be able to align our investments and reporting on finances with these key imperatives. And then also from a status update perspective, we'll be able to talk with the board about how the agency really is truly moving the agenda forward, consistent with the regional strategic vision that you've just adopted, and then kind of on an annual basis, how are we moving in that direction? First and foremost, the executive committee gave direction to me that compliance and agency sustainability needs to be the top priority. And so you'll note even in the document that I've handed out, it's 2 pages worth of content. I tried to get it down to 1, but I just couldn't. Covers 3 kind of key priorities there: financial integrity, talent, training and technology, and sector leadership and program development. I feel like listening to the conversation this morning, these should not be a surprise to you. And they're things that our board members have already talked about in their various remarks and committee reports and whatnot. The key to our organization's success is its people. I know that that's the same in your local governments, but from a product perspective, it's all about human capital in our agency. And so whether we're talking about how we're spending our dollars, that's in personnel resources. If it's about talent, training, and technology investments, it's about giving the staff the tools that they need, whether that's support from a professional development perspective or literally the technology that we're putting in their hands to do their jobs. And then that's enabling us to do things like host a group from Monterrey, Mexico, a month or so ago, last month, I guess it was, to come and see what we're doing around scenario planning. So, I mean, that sector leadership is really becoming not just my joke about the envy that we're garnering from Hampton Roads, but really this organization, this region is on notice in other communities. And it's really exciting. I don't think that we toot that horn loud enough. So. The second key indicator is driving data research and analysis. This board took action earlier in fiscal year 2025 to increase our dues from member jurisdictions, and we are very, very appreciative of that. In conversation with our administrators and then with the board, the approval and the billing that will go through effective July 1 had a 5-cent per capita increase to our dues. And that 5-cent increase is dedicated to investing in our data and research and analysis capabilities. So I've outlined a couple of kind of key categories there. I think about data in a really broad sense. It's both quantitative, which is a lot of what you hear about from our organization and how our data team focuses, but it's also qualitative. It's identifying best practices, who's doing what best in the region, and how do we share that across the region and bring good ideas and initiatives to scale. It's looking at what's happening nationally to be able to swipe the best of the ideas and share those back out across our networks. And then it's also understanding what's happening here on the ground in this region. What are the trends that we need to be accelerating, and what are the trends that we want to be curbing? That really is evident through our regional indicators work and the update to our transportation demand model, which is a key initiative for this fiscal year and a significant financial investment in the MPO's work program that was adopted a week or 2 weeks ago, I guess. Offering local planning assistance is, I think, becoming more and more core to what we do. We certainly want to continue to drive activities where there is a consensus among jurisdictions of regional priorities, but this organization is owned by our local governments, and we want to make sure that we hold steady to always being available and accessible to your local governments to make sure that if you need help delivering on a local project or initiative, we have the staff support that's available to do that. There are a couple of key items that are outlined in the document, but I want to just sort of speak to that. Even when they kind of are regional in nature, it really is moving key initiatives forward that localities are responsible for. Examples of that are, and it'll be the next item on your agenda actually for action, thinking about water supply. I know reading the paper, this is a topic that's been on the minds of some of you and joint conversations and future conversations that I know that will happen. Perhaps fortuitously simultaneous with the conversations that are already generating and emerging here in this region outside of PlanRVA. The Department of Environmental Quality, the state of Virginia has a mandate that local governments submit regionally a water supply plan. And so later in the agenda, we have a resolution this morning to name PlanRVA as the lead entity to support the local governments in meeting that mandate. All but New Kent County are assigned to the region, the regional planning unit that's a part of that effort for this geography. And New Kent, through Mr. Hathaway, has already, through Administrator Hathaway, has already committed that they'd like to coordinate with us as we move forward in that journey. Other examples are an invitation that we got, Lauren mentioned this on the financial side, but from Virginia Department of Health, to be able to help with a pretty exciting program. I got to hear a little bit of a briefing from my colleague in the Fredericksburg area who's ahead of us in this, but it's to assist property owners across the region who have failing well and septic systems. And so there is a program that provides financial assistance for that, for income qualified property owners. And I think that there's a short list of properties that have already been identified in our western and eastern parts of our region. And they've asked if we would be the program administrator for that initiative. And talking with local governments who have the identified properties, it sounded like it was a good place for us to really be able to help bring that capacity. Yeah.
Can you share that information with us, please? We
Happy
have
to.
several neighborhoods that are going through this right now.
Happy to, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. In addition to that, you all know that we've really been focusing on investing in our grant writing and grant administration capacity. We hired a staff person who's dedicated to supporting our grant writing. We've always been active in this space, largely in service to our Emergency Management Alliance and the grant management and writing that we do there. But we have an opportunity and have been stepping into that space more and more and expect to. So I know that we've been helpful with Chesterfield and Henrico and the city on some big grant opportunities that some have come through and others saw some changes in the last couple of months. But it's been exciting to be brought into the fold to think about how to strengthen those types of applications to move particularly environmental and transportation initiatives forward at the local level. But we've also got a new opportunity with partnership with the Southeastern Crescent Regional Commission. I know Barbara Jaycox and her team have been working with a couple of organizations that you all are familiar with, Better Housing Coalition, Maggie Walker Land Trust, to be able to access funding from that newly designated regional commission to help really support community development activities in the region. The next key imperative is really a throwback to what Sarah and Ellen have already presented to you, but we are a planning organization. So while we have these key imperatives in this from a maybe priority order, I mean, in essence, our role in this region is to be able to update and implement these regional plans. I think as people who spend their careers in the planning profession, our deepest desire is that plans come to fruition. And so we don't want to be an organization that goes through the tedious exercise of putting together plans that sit on a shelf. And so we're really focused on, through this regional strategic vision, identifying ways that we can move this vision to reality and we can head in the direction to really make things possible. Ms. Dibble, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up, I mean, I think you saw the slide with CVWA. I mean, there's been a lot of conversation over the last year about how we really think about partnering with CVWA. They hold the responsibility for the regional solid waste plan, and we have infrastructure in our region that we need to revisit to make sure that we've got the capacity for the long haul so that this region continues to grow and thrive and be a place of preference and choice for people. And so it's just another example of how we really see not just the plans that we produce feeding into that vision, but our partnering organizations across the region. Catherine O'Donnell and I at Richmond Region Tourism have had some conversations about what the tourism agenda looks like and how that integrates. Jennifer Wakefield and I at Greater Richmond Partnership. So we've really been working to try to make sure that we're not operating in a vacuum here, but we're really pulling together and have had very, very early conversations with Brian Davis with the Workforce Investment Board. So that's definitely a different kind of space because it's not as much the physical infrastructure, but it's certainly important to the region. And all of that has been enabled through this RVA Rising initiative with this sort of laser focus on economic mobility and creating these opportunities, pathways for economic growth for everybody in the region as we move forward. And then finally, another big part of what we do is just bring people together, whether it's you all as leaders coming around the table, the pre-meeting and post-meeting conversation, I think everybody would agree is very valuable. I won't say more valuable than the content in the meeting, but that's what it's all about. It's about building these relationships and making sure that we're engaging with your locality staff. Our staff is engaging, and that we're bringing people together to be able to have time to talk, build relationships, talk about issues that are important, and figure out what solutions we can do together. So that member and commissioner engagement is a big priority for me and for our staff this year, as well as continuing to beat that drum from a public engagement perspective. I think the narrative in this community in my tenure in the Richmond region, which is 10 years this year, has really changed. There is a spirit of regional cooperation that people can point to and they can see. And I think that that's a big part of generating that hope that we are a direction that's moving forward in a way that people are happy about. And so we're really excited to be part of that movement. And then we do that through the delivery of certain types of events and partnerships. And so the Pathways to the Future Symposium that we kicked off this year will continue to be kind of our annual signature event that pulls the community at large together to be able to talk about where we're headed, big picture wise, and how we move the needle to get there. And that requires a lot of opportunity, or it enables a lot of opportunity to work with those partnering organizations that you've seen referenced on some of the earlier slides. So this is a really high level set of slides, and then that document that I handed out that hits some key points about some of the narratives. It's frankly very difficult to put to paper all of the things that our 30-person team is touching and has their hands on, but we're trying to pull that together in a pretty clear and concise way. And we'll be looking at ways to be able to report and actively engage with each of you over the next year to make this all happen. But that is in essence our work plan for this year. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Our hope is that you would approve this as a narrative support document to the budget and kind of the how are we going to get this done on the vision side of things for this year.
Any questions or comments? Not seeing, thank you for that. It was a great presentation. I appreciate your handout. Mr. Hathaway, I've been looking at the monitor, making sure I didn't see your hand up at any point, but I wanted to just mention that I have been looking. I didn't want you to think I was ignoring you.
So thank you. I think the presentations have been excellent.
Good. Thank you. So is there a motion to approve the FY 2026 annual work program as presented?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Thanks, it passes. On DEQ resolution for water supply planning.
We're in the home stretch here. So we've been moving from big vision to work program to really pretty tactical now, but this is a required document for action this morning that's before you. The resolution and background memo is in your packet starting on page 29. Mark Bittner and Janice Scott have put this together, and Mark will be leading this work if approved. The idea is that we really would serve as the lead convener to be able to support the jurisdictions in fulfilling the mandate from Virginia State Water Control Board to be able to meet the requirement to submit a regionally prepared water supply plan by the deadline in 2029. So if it is the pleasure of the board, we'd be asking for action today to adopt this resolution. We'll then send that to the DEQ so that we'll go on record as the lead for the local planning unit. And again, as I stated, while New Kent County is in a different watershed planning unit, and talking with Mr. Hathaway, there's a lot of interest in just making sure that communication and coordination stays strong. So we know water supply is a big deal in New Kent County as well.
Thanks. And with that, Mr. Hathaway's hand is up. So, or at least there's a hand on the screen.
Oh, it's a cursor.
Oh,
Yeah.
my apologies. Okay. It was the first time I'd seen it. I've been watching it. Yes.
Yeah.
So if we vote, that doesn't make it happen, right? Because there's 8 other jurisdictions that are not
part of this board that are affected by this vote. How can we make a decision for them? So I serve on Crater PDC's exec committee, and to be honest with you, they're not in a position to do that, but they haven't discussed it. And I think it would be not prudent to vote on something that I haven't been able to discuss with the jurisdictions that are affected that aren't part of this board.
The locality, I apologize, I could have given a better background. The localities that are not part of the PlanRVA footprint have individually taken action to support this. There were a number of gatherings initially hosted by DEQ and then also convened by.
I just,
but yes,
it
there
hasn't
has-
been discussed by Crater PDC at all, so I was not aware of any actions that they took. I just didn't want to make a decision that somehow this, like, I don't know how this board by itself could make that decision. That's why I'm asking why this board could support the motion, but I don't know that actually gives it the authority. And that's why I'm asking the
Yeah.
question, what makes it have the authority overall?
The DEQ has indicated that where localities are part of a regional planning district commission and that their PDC is prepared to take the lead, a PDC resolution will suffice in lieu of your local governments each having to take action. But that only covers your localities. And so the other jurisdictions that are in our planning area had to take individual action and they have already done so.
Okay. That helps me a lot because
Yeah.
I needed to understand that part
Apologies.
before I was willing to move forward. And and two of them aren't even either one of the PDCs, Amelia and Cumberland. So all of the jurisdictions that needed to outside of the Crater PDC, I mean, outside of PlanRVA have already put in a.
Yes, through the Water Association. So again, it was another kind of cooperative.
Arwood did it?
Mhm. And those that choose not to will not be penalized or excluded. They just will have to deal directly with the state. So this is it is a mandate. It is not clear what would happen if a jurisdiction were to decide at some later date between now and 2029 to pull out, so to speak. But the idea is that we would, so your action today is not compelling any jurisdiction outside of our footprint to participate.
But like I said, I just not sure that I was comfortable moving forward.
Understood.
If I didn't understand where the other jurisdictions were and. Yeah, it just hadn't hit my radar at all. Like I didn't know. And I at Crater PDC, I'd have thought that would have hit the radar and it didn't.
I know Mr. Ellington and I have been on several of the calls together, so he is aware, but
Well, they didn't have a quorum at their
well aware
last
that, yeah.
meeting, so it may be why that didn't get discussed, but I don't recall that on the agenda. Is there anybody that voted no or said they weren't going to do it?
Not to my knowledge.
I just had, I had a different question. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yes.
Good, okay. The timeline here, I know the regulations require the plan to be submitted in October 2029. I wonder if you could just walk us through what happens between now and then. That's a long time. I know like that's like it's typical for a long-term planning process. We have obvious needs that we're trying to figure out as a region. And so like, I'm just interested to know as that is happening and this process is happening, what that timeline looks like so we can kind of like see just, are we gonna be able to get, is there gonna be data that can inform some of their decision making? It's just, a lot's gonna happen between now and then.
Sure. Here's what I know, and it's still subject to more information. The resolution on the agenda today is tied to a very small, and when I say small, I mean $8,000 grant that the DEQ has provided statewide to each of the regional water planning groups. So each planning group is eligible to pull down $8,000. The requirement to spend that $8,000 is 90 days from the contract signature date, which is to occur subject to the resolution being adopted. And the deliverable for that $8,000 is to collect compile and assemble the plans that already exist. Each of the jurisdictions have already submitted a water supply plan to the state at the individual locality level. And the deliverable is to collect them and do a preliminary just assessment of how much they already consider each other. That's a 90-day process. Our intention is that we would do that in-house with the use of our on-call bench for consulting services. That was the direction that the public utilities directors thought was the best route to go when they convened earlier this spring. Following that, we will then convene the utility directors, the experts in the region that are in the space to build out a more robust project schedule. It is unclear whether the General Assembly is going to appropriate funds to support financially this mandate. So there is a mandate and there is a deadline for submission, but there has been no financial commitment beyond this $8,000 per watershed planning unit to support localities to come together to do this work. So when you ask about timeline, I would be remiss if I didn't just echo what I've already shared with the administrators in our region. And that is that I think in order to accomplish that, we're going to need to scope this project. We're going to need to identify what professional engineering resources are needed to be able to meet the requirements. And we'll have to put that out to bid, either through one of our on-call engagements or an existing engagement that a local government has through cooperative procurement, if that's eligible, to be able to define that timeline in a more revised scope and a budget. And then we'll have to come back to the jurisdictions to identify how we will finance this. I'm a pessimist in this particular instance and am anticipating that the state is not going to contribute what's needed to financially support this mandate. And so we're looking at it as though we need to figure out how to most effectively cost and fund this project. And if the state does dribble out a little bit of money every fiscal year, we'll certainly use that to offset the local government's contributions.
Yes. What would you speculate the cost of the finished product would be? The assembly and the compiling and the.
I saw some early cost projections in some of the early work that our utilities directors did that put it around $200,000. I think that it remains to be seen, given the other conversations that are happening, as to whether or not, this is an exercise that's leveraged, which may increase that cost, or if it's something that is really held very closely to the stated mandate. So, I'm giving you a number, but I can't speak right now. I think that there's a lot of conversations that need to happen locally, and the good news is that because the deadline is pretty far away, there's a lot of time for you all to do the conversations that you need to do and then figure out how this fits in. And we're happy to play the small piece in that puzzle, as it were.
Another speculative question to worst case scenario, would the costs to the individual localities be prorated? Like the membership fees are?
I would think that there would be a reasonable way that the expense would be allocated to localities. The basis of that, I don't know that I'm.
But there's no way to mandate that on a locality, especially outside of this organization. They could just say, yeah, we're not gonna pay. And there's nothing that can be done about that. But there's still, if we take this on and we say yes, we're still gonna have to come up with the funds somehow. I'm not sure that I'm ready to agree to something that we can't quantify and we had no idea how we're gonna pay for it.
Fair point.
Yes.
Just clarify, what we're asking for here is just the $8,000 that is budgeted already?
We've not budgeted it.
It's a grant that's already included.
Oh, yes, they're ready to go. They're ready to
But
disperse the funds.
the way I
90-day
read the
period.
resolution, though, the resolution says that that PlanRVA is agreeing to take on this role for this mandate. And if we approve this, we've agreed to take on the role for this mandate. And we don't know what it's gonna cost and where the funds are gonna come from, don't we? When does this have to be decided by? Does it have to be decided today?
For the $8,000 by June 1st.
Well, what if we accept the role of taking the $8,000 and compiling the first part, and we delay the decision on whether or not we're going to take on the role for the future.
That's certainly.
Because I think that that first part is fine. I don't have a problem with that. And I'm not saying I have a problem with any of this. I'm not I'm just saying that I'm not, it looks like to me if we vote on this today as it's presented, we're taking on this role and we are on the stick for the outcome, even if the state doesn't come up with any money. And these other jurisdictions that aren't part of this organization say, I'm not paying a penny. And I'm not ready to vote to say yes to that. I am ready to say yes to compiling the information and using the $8,000, but I'm not ready to say yes to the rest of it. I'm not saying I'm against it. I just need more
Understood.
information.
I am,
Understandable.
yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
but similarly, there are a lot of conversations going on and even more that will occur. And if it is that we're simply talking about the 90-day compilation of local plans that have already been submitted, no problem with that. If it is beyond that, I'd like to have more time and I need to go back and have conversation with my colleagues' administration, especially in the context of conversations that are currently underway.
It's understandable. Like a lot of times we don't really grapple with something until something's written down and then now it becomes real. So I think it's great to have this conversation and to be prepared. And I'm happy to entertain an amended motion to what Mr. Gregory he have some language that may help us with that. But before I do, is there any more comments or questions from people? Because I don't want to ignore or overlook things.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. From Finance Committee, I think you're right, there could be some fiscal matters that need to be discussed. From a more corporate scale, PlanRVA's role in many areas is data compilation. So I am in full support of what I believe I've heard from my colleagues here, that I have no problem severing the two parts. I would support the first part, compilation. At this time, with the information I'm available, would not support the other part. So however that motion wants to come out or whatever the will of this body is, I would support.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So all of our votes don't have to be unanimous, correct?
Correct.
So everybody doesn't have to agree.
Correct.
So we can have objections to stuff.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody can make a motion to approve it as it's been presented and then we can go around the room and see what the could be. Someone could make a motion to have an amended version. I just want to hear from people before a motion hits the floor, because I just want to hear as many people's thoughts as possible. Yeah.
It seems like there's a split here between people willing to do the initial planning aspect of it and then maybe having a conversation after that planning analysis has been done to see kind of where we're at. This requested action is just solely on the planning section of it, right? The first half of that.
But it says it's gonna take on responsibilities of the real.
Yeah, so
It
okay.
needs to be said.
So the first part is to convene all of the plans that have already been submitted by other localities into one
Right.
document.
And that's the.
And then the second portion of that would be that PlanRVA would take on the role of actually having a regional plan, which we don't know the cost of yet.
But it's
Right? Did I say it wrong?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may, it's all contingent, as it states in the last paragraph, upon the execution of an agreement by all localities. Okay, and upon the award of grant funds. So this doesn't commit the agency to writing a big check that will come to the localities to fund. All this is to coordinate the development of the information and to develop the applications, and all of that is contingent upon ultimately an execution of an agreement by all localities. So if you don't get that agreement, then this is not effective.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak to that.
I'm gonna get.
Yeah, I really like to separate this out, I must admit. And I hear you, but I'd like to suggest we separate it out and look at the 90-day compilation of the plans that have been submitted and the 8,000 to do that, and then to come back to the other components.
Those were my comments. I believe they need to be severed. I do recognize what council's saying. But then having these contingencies out there, not knowing whether they'll fall on the affirmative or not, seems to me. And just briefly to Reverend Cooper's point, sure, I mean, you could, if this wasn't severed and you had some folks that wanted to vote in part for certain things, but because they're not severed, would end up voting against it. So you're right, Mr. Chairman. I think
we
you could
could
go
get a
around, you
no
could go around the
for the
room and
whole
get a
thing,
no
yeah.
on the whole thing. And then if somebody wanted to come back and amend it, then you could, so you could certainly, we could certainly do that. So that would be at the discretion of the chair, but as it's written right now, I would vote no, even though I like a portion of it. If it was amended, then I would consider voting in the affirmative for the portions that I would support, as Dr. Newbill, Mr. Engel was talking about. So thank you.
Mr. Chair, I just was wondering if someone would comment on, we are after June 1st. And what the consequences are. That was a deadline. Where does that fit into all of this?
We'll have to defer.
Communicated to the DEQ that the timeline that they provided for this action to be taken was not in conformity with our board meeting schedule. And they agreed that it would be fine to extend the deadline of June 1st until after this board had a chance to meet.
And that, I know you had a conversation. Did that come in writing? Or
Yes.
It is. Okay, good. Thank you.
So.
And I'll just share, the Appomattox River Water Authority, whose members are Chesterfield, Dinwiddie, Prince George, Colonial Heights, and Petersburg, are the party that have already approved a resolution. So I just want you to know that from a awareness perspective.
Ms. Dibble?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. I think that, again, with due respect to our council, I understand what he's saying, but I think that everything that we approve or disapprove is public documents, and I would be concerned that this document, the way that it's written, could be misunderstood by someone in the public who just read it and said, oh, well, look, they've agreed to do all of this with no money. So while it legally may be right, I think that the way that it's currently written could be misunderstood. So I think it's important that we change the language and, as Dr. Newell said, separate.
So thank you. Before I go forward, because I know you had your hand up also, Mr. Weddle, but can I make this suggestion that we go ahead and separate them out as two different things now? Because I feel like we can go around this room forever and everyone's gonna have comments. So if we could step them out now, if you still want to talk now, that's fine. Okay, good. Was there anyone else who felt the urge to speak now, or can we just have a motion where we're gonna separate these two? Well, I'm sorry, we'll separate these two out and then we'll have a motion for each one. Only thing I need is what that language would look like.
I feel like this is the first now therefore be it resolved. I feel like that, if I'm hearing the concerns, that is the place that needs to be tightened up to more clearly articulate that, if I understand, it's that section that is a problematic.
So turn to page 31 in our packet, the resolution 2025-2, is that correct?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm sorry. If that's the one that people are objecting to, I don't understand. I mean, we're here in PlanRVA. We just approved this, work program here that says convening the region. And so that's what we're doing. It's an issue for everybody, whether you want to admit it or not. So why are we quibbling about this? I just don't get that.
I mean, we can go around and round for that why part. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that it would be easier for me if we can just separate them out to have two different, and then we can have conversations about why people voted against it or for it.
Fine.
But I really would just like to get a vote, and to be honest, so that.
Thank you.
Cause I've been in meetings like this before, and sometimes people are dead set, they want more time or they need more. And others wanna move forward, so it's,
We
yeah,
clearly need to move forward on the first part of it.
okay.
Because we'll not meet the timelines or the dates or what DEQ's saying. But the second part, I don't think we need to vote on today, but we can vote.
So Mr. Engel, is it fair to say that you would be supportive potentially of it being separated out right above the now
there? I'll vote for the first half for sure.
But I wanna be specific about where we're separating it out.
Yeah, so
we're-
let's take out the last two, well.
last two resolutions.
Yeah, the last two.
So whereas the Middle James 3 and then, no, be further resolved.
Yeah, look at the resolution, not the memo.
Okay, I'm seeing.
Mr. Chairman.
So we're gonna stop at now or just the last two?
I believe Mr.
Just the
Engel
last two.
is suggesting amending the resolution to strike the last two paragraphs,
Okay,
which are at the top of the second page.
okay.
So it would end, the resolution would just have the final resolution, or the first resolution of three.
Let's hear the correct. Let's hear the part.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt resolution 2025-02 amended with the deletion of the last two paragraphs that the Richmond Regional Planning District Commission hereby commit to developing applications for any available water supply planning grant funds to offset the extent of feasible the cost of developing said regional water supply plan, and the language that resolves that contingent upon execution of an agreement by all localities and water authorities within the Middle James 3 RPU and upon a water grant funds to the Middle James 3 RPU, the Richmond Regional Planning District Commission intends to manage all grant funds received and allocate these shares towards the task and deliverables proposed in the grant application for the benefit of the entire region plan, and keeping only the resolution language that states that the Richmond Regional Planning District Commission hereby commits to coordinate with all local governments and water authorities within the Middle James 3 RPU in the development of a regional water supply plan that will comply with mandated regulations, and all other language of the resolution staying the same.
Is there a second?
Second.
So it's a motion on the floor that's deleting those last two paragraphs. Is there any needed discussion before that vote? Thought I saw a hand.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, my reading of that means that we're cutting out exactly the things that you're concerned about. So I'm gonna vote no on that, because I think by taking those out, we're saying we're not gonna apply for money to do the thing. And we're also saying that we cut out the part that said contingent upon execution of an agreement by all localities, which gave me comfort that if other localities had a problem, that we would work it out in that agreement. So we're taking those pieces out, which is confusing to me because that doesn't seem to be the intent of the amendment.
Yes, sir. So respectfully, that is the intent of my motion. That doesn't preclude us from going and applying for grants, or at some point having additional information to maybe have a different resolution to do those. I have no problem doing that work. I just can't connect these two at this time with the information, or the motion was to not have these two connected with the resolution till we have further information that would allow us to do that. And that could simply be a separate resolution at some point, but this does still allow us to commit to coordinate with all localities and water authorities, which I think would help give more information to allowing us to at some point be able to do these two. These two commitments right here, I don't believe can be made. My view is can't be made, and what I've heard from others, until we have additional information, but we don't wanna not, double negative, coordinate with the local governments on the water authorities and develop a regional water supply plan that will comply with the mandated regulations. We still wanna do that. That's my view. Certainly someone could differ.
For clarity and maybe in the interest of closure on this, what I heard was that in the discussion was that we probably wanna modify the remaining now therefore be it resolved to be specific to the open grant and the gathering of data. And that would say with the immediate thing is the board agrees to, and the discussion around what a commitment looks like and what are we signing up for and where's funding gonna come from and people going back to the localities. We'll leave a little more time for the larger step around PlanRVA's role.
That's what I heard as well, and I'm seeing nods.
That was the intent of the motion to.
Okay.
Martha, is there going to be an issue with applying for the grants if we don't have this agreement? Is there a timeline that we have to be under for the application of the funds?
The
to go
release,
further?
the release of the $8,884.
Yeah.
So I just want to put that in
That's
context.
this one.
Is contingent upon a resolution agreeing to apply for and accept those dollars. So I think trying to think about, I mean, if there was a comfort in there's a motion and a second on the floor.
We can amend.
So, if that needed further revision, you could specify language, something like application for the $8,884 for purposes of compilation and compilation of the plans, of the existing plans.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Last full sentence.
The last-
29.
Hold on, sorry.
What precludes us from making the statement relative to PlanRVA simply receiving the funds for compilation of the plans that have been submitted because this still suggests in the second whereas each it still suggests some things that I don't think we are in agreement on yet.
Does it have to be a resolution or can it just be a motion and a second and then minutes?
They've indicated that they need if you can help me convince, so, if somebody wants to make a motion, we can probably.
Well, we have a motion still on the
Well,
floor.
they're the same legal effect, this resolution. More tight in writing,
But we could proceed with simply stipulating exactly what we're intending in terms of PlanRVA applying for grant fundings to compile the
Already
exactly from the
localities, the already
Yeah.
done plans to compile that.
Yes.
I mean, that might cost more than $8,900, but
But
I'm
that's what
okay
they're
with that
providing.
part of the stick without having that defined. I'm just not okay with the rest of it.
So, but we don't need to add that language into what you're saying in order to get the
We
grant
don't
money.
even need to do a resolution, if I heard correctly. We could simply have a
However-
letter, correct?
However, DPU generally is gonna wanna operate off.
DEQ.
It has the same effect.
Knowing DEQ,
Yes.
they're gonna be pretty,
They're gonna want a resolution. And,
Right.
Yeah, even though it doesn't legally would have to.
Resolve that we agree that
I think that would show intent internally. I don't know that that would show action externally.
I just want to make sure that what we are,
Sure.
that what we're stating, I'm not sure that this language still captures the intent of PlanRVA in this moment. First, is role and responsibility for compilation of those jurisdictional plans and submission. This still seems to bespeak a different level, even in the second whereas. Each requires each locality to assist in developing a single jointly produced regional, it still suggests. Yes.
So, Mr. Chairman, for the purposes of reworking this, I move to withdraw and strike the previous motion made. You agree to remove your second? Okay, thank you, sir. Because if we've got to rework it, then, and I do think we're gonna have to have a resolution to send to DPU. We tell them we had a vote, but if we're gonna have to rework this language, the motion would have to be redone.
What motion would you?
Well, at that point, what I would suggest is that, the only thing I've seen is that we would recess for a moment and that the chair would work with Mr. Gregory and all to draft something to see what the language might be. But any discussion of that needs to be an open session if other board members are gonna communicate. So I think this is your discretion, sir. If you think you had the language, I think you could recess to get it in writing. If you're gonna discuss public business, we want to stay in, we can't recess to do
So
that.
I feel like for the sake of everyone, we need a vote on the current one, the way it's written. And if there is a motion and a second for that, I'd like to go ahead and get those votes. And then if that doesn't pass, then I'd rather. I just, because I don't want to be disrespectful for the people who may want this one on the floor. And if it doesn't get a vote in a second, fine, but if it does, then I'd like to go through that.
going forward.
Is that
Running it with this.
I just want to do it, yes.
Point of clarification, Mr. Chambers made a friendly amendment to the motion. Was it accepted or does the maker of the motion consider that?
I didn't accept it and withdrew my motion straight.
He withdrew the motion and I withdrew the second, so we're back to nothing.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, I mean, it sounds like to me the DEQ is flexible on when this needs to get voted on.
Yeah, but I don't think it'll be flexible,
And
just
so-
wants to.
I'd like to suggest that maybe a way that we go about this is, it sounds at this point that we are not clear on this resolution. So I'm not gonna force an issue here or force the vote.
Just vote.
I'm not forcing a vote. I just want to be respectful for the people who may want to see a vote. And they have the right to make a motion and have a second. And I don't want to just table this, even though we're having lots of discussion. I think it's fair to them and their localities and people they represent that if they wanted to be on record with this, I want them to be able to have that on record if that's what they want.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I move the resolution as presented in the packet.
thank you.
Second.
I'm sorry, who was the motion?
That it does what? Who was the second?
To approve it, just as it is.
As it
Perfect.
is.
Yeah.
Okay,
And we're gonna do a call.
I don't need any more discussion. Hopefully that's okay. I can bypass any more discussion. So can we have a roll call?
Chair McGraw,
Nay.
Mr. Chambers,
Aye.
Mr. Atkins,
Nay.
Dr. Miller,
Nay.
Mr. Engel,
Nay.
Ms. Schneider,
Nay.
Mr. Davis.
No.
Ms. Dibble. No. Mr. Waddell,
No.
Mr. Rogish,
No.
Mr. Cooper,
No.
Mr. Bast,
Aye.
Ms. Jordan,
I see, bro.
I'm sorry, Ms. Stewart,
No.
and Mr. Hathaway,
No.
Was Miss Pritchard called?
Ms. Pritchard, I'm sorry.
No.
Thank you. Dr. Newbill,
No.
Ms. Knight,
Nay.
and Mr. George.
Nay.
The motion fails. Did I miss anyone else? We've had some people leave. I want to make sure I got everyone who's present. That motion did not carry.
Thank you. So it seems that we will have to come back to that this meeting to have
I
the
think we're gonna
revised.
have to do it this meeting. We probably need a recess or something.
Could we just have a motion to approve the funding of the grant part that would be drafted into a resolution?
And can the motion be that a resolution from the motion be made? Can you do that? Make a motion that we resolve to pass a resolution that will be written from the motion that's stated.
So wait. So you're saying, I guess, let me see if I'm hearing this right. You're saying we're gonna make a motion that we will create a resolution that eventually we'll agree on? Is that?
No, I'm saying, we make a motion
Right,
that
right.
becomes a resolution if passed.
Well, Mr. Chair,
Stated
you could just say, be it resolved
that plan.
that the plan RV, make it back.
Okay.
You state the motion as a resolution.
Yeah.
It,
Okay.
That's
and
what
then,
I was
and then
asking.
staff would just take whatever the statement is, put it in
Right.
writing, and it would serve as a
Right.
resolution.
That
You
that
make
was
a statement that somebody can say, or.
I could try,
Okay.
If it's on video and it's recorded, then staff can use
I
that,
don't-
right?
yeah,
So-
I would like a.
Because
a few
Sean-
minutes to
Okay.
take that out.
Okay,
Alright.
so,
As a
yeah.
question for clarity, if we go back to page 29,
Mhm.
when we're giving the background, at the bottom of the page, there's the last complete sentence. Says there's a proposal on behalf of MJR3 and $8,000 for confirmed for the RPU, for the collection consolidation of previous water supply plans. Isn't that the scope of what?
The motion.
I believe the scope or the intent of this body is we'd like to get that part. But we take that language and substitute it at the end of the first now therefore be resolved, and that's the resolution.
And take the first where, or the second whereas out completely. Do we need the second whereas?
I can give you some time
Second
to
whereas
make that
describing what the
language.
Mr. Chair, I
All right, so do I need a motion to table this for a few minutes while Mr. Gregory and others were, okay, and seconds? So we just tabled it to the,
Can you open for discussion briefly? Just want to be clear that this would be for administrative matters, but not the discussion of public policy while we're in recess.
Correct.
This is for the chair to work with the drafting of language,
correct,
but not setting public policy. Yes, sir, I would vote for that.
and do we need a roll call for vote for that? Can we just? Okay. All right, so let's go for a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Someone else.
All right.
Isn't recess?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
read off an amended resolution. I hope I get somebody to accept that and then second it, and then we won't have discussion, we'll just have a vote. But we've had a lot of discussion and I want to be respectful of time and commitment people have.
Mr. Chairman, I believe this resolution 2025-02 as amended, which I'll read to you now, captures, I believe, what you're trying to accomplish. It doesn't, but we're doing the best we can. So we're going to retain portions of the existing resolution as written, but strike a good deal of it. I'm just gonna read it out and hopefully it will do what you want it to do. Whereas, we're gonna keep the first paragraph, whereas the Virginia General Assembly has mandated the development of regional water supply plans throughout the Commonwealth, and the State Water Control Board has developed regulations to implement this planning process. And skip down to paragraph 4, whereas the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ, has announced the availability of grant funds to assist RPUs and offset some of the costs related to the development of these plans, and are encouraging RPUs to submit applications for grant funds. And whereas the Middle James 3 RPU has requested that the Richmond Regional Planning District Commission, PlanRVA, be the lead agent for the development of its regional water supply plan. Now therefore be it resolved that the Richmond Regional Planning District Commission hereby commits to utilize grant funds in the amount of $8,884 for the Middle James River 3 RPU for the collection and consolidation of previous water supply plans, period.
Their motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept that language as resolution 2025-02 for PlanRVA.
Second.
All right, do we have a roll call? Vote please, Senator.
Okay. 1 second.
Why did you? I'm not thinking.
Chair McGraw,
Aye.
Mr. Chambers,
Aye. I just followed it.
Mr. Atkins, Dr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Engel,
Aye.
Ms. Schneider,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Ms. Dibble. Ms. Dibble,
Oh,
thank you, sorry. Mr. Waddell,
Aye.
Mr. Rokish,
Aye.
Mr. Cooper,
Aye.
Mr. Bast,
Aye.
Ms. Stewart. Aye. Mr. Hathaway,
Aye. Aye.
Newbill, thank you. Dr. Newbill,
Aye.
Ms. Knight,
Aye.
Mr. George.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Everything else is informational. Our next meeting will be September 11th, 2025.